Pranic Healing Recovery Pod has been working on my sister since the middle of May, which my sister is a recovering alcoholic, and I'm also a pranic healer myself. I have gone up through pranic psychotherapy. In fact, I took the pranic psychotherapy class because I wanted to help my sister. And so I really do have a belief in its ability to work. The energy medicine is very powerful, and I love the fact that it is in clinical trials. My day job is in a major healthcare system, working with cardiac surgeons, and so one of my strongest desires is to have allopathic medicine and energy medicine come together and work together, because it's really all the same stuff. You know, what they want to do is the same, but I actually think energy medicine has a leg up on some of the stuff, you know, but that's just me. Maybe some of you too. Anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my sister and her journey. So my sister is a very sensitive person. She has always been empathic, and has developed a lot of anxiety as a result of that. So the fact that you have been working to help her has a great deal of meaning for me. She and I are very different. I'm much more resilient than she is, and she struggled for a long time with her anxiety, which eventually led to her self-medicating with alcohol. This is, you know, not so much a story about her. It's not just a story about her, you know, getting better. It's, you know, she's actually like kind of finding out who she is, because for the first time in a very long time, she's actually present in her life. This hasn't happened in decades, okay? So, you know, you watch them go up and down, and I mean, honestly, I was like, okay, I'm tired of being hopeful, because every time I get hopeful, I feel like the rug gets pulled out from under me. And, you know, I've been to Al-Anon and all kinds of stuff like that. So, you know, my sister Elisa, she has struggled with alcoholism for decades. She's been through treatment. She's been in and out of rehab multiple times. She has lost relationships with 4 of her 5 children who do not speak to her or do not see her. She does not have contact with her grandchildren. She has just kind of decimated all the relationships in her life because of the addiction. So it's really sad. You know, she carries a lot of emotional pain, and over the years, she had become very isolated and lonely, you know, financially insecure. Like I said, she lives with a tremendous amount of anxiety, very low self-worth. And we are much better friends now than we ever have been. And it's really a result of her making efforts to be sober. But those efforts have really failed in the past. And I think what has happened this time is this like perfect convergence of events, because about, like I said, in the beginning of May, she ended up back in the hospital. And she goes to the hospital as a way to manage her addiction. You know, she'll know that she has to detox, and so she'll go to the emergency room and she'll get checked into the hospital, and then she'll be in there for a week and she'll detox, and then she'll come home and she does the whole thing all over again. Well, this time she went to the hospital and she had had a stroke. She was very lucky. All that happened is she had numbness in her right hand, and there was a little tiny white spot in her brain, which, you know, she showed me on the CAT scan, right? Well, it scared the crap out of her, which was a good thing, because now, wow, it's got her attention. And just at that time is when the Pranic Healing for Recovery group started doing the work. So right now, right away, you have, you know, this protocol that's very effective, right? But you also have the human being who is all of a sudden very interested in being part of their own recovery. I don't think she's ever been this motivated to be in recovery. But motivation is not enough. You know, I've seen motivation in her many times and it just doesn't work. So what happened this time is, you know, the group started working on her and she started out having tremendous pain in her body and, you know, struggling to not drink, even though she knew that she couldn't do that, because they told her in the hospital that she needed to control her anxiety or her blood pressure would go up and she would have another stroke and die. Okay, so she was pretty terrified, which I'm not going to lie, I was really glad that she was scared, because I thought that was a good motivator for her. So the body pain disappeared. That happened first. No pain, no aches and pains, nothing. Went away, like in about a week. And then her anxiety started going down. She started feeling calmer, more grounded, more peaceful. And I remember writing to the group after, you know, checking in with her a few times and her saying to me, you know, I just don't feel like drinking anymore. It's not like I'm trying not to drink. I don't think about it. And I just wrote to the group, I said, this is a big deal. This is because it's never happened before. It's never happened before. And thank you for sending up your little thumbs up and things, because that helps me to know that people are out there. I'm like an extrovert, so I need the, oh, thank you. That's great. I love those little bubbles. Thanks. So cute. They're so cute. So, you know, she's become way more engaged with her life, much more connected to reality. You know, her recovery in the past, you know, she would get out of the hospital and she would be like, yes, I'm going to do it this time. But there was always this really manic quality to her and her desire to do this. It's like you could almost feel the struggle. And now it's different. And she's been through a lot in the past, you know, 6-8 weeks. You know, one of her cats died. She just got these two really great cats, and one of them ran out of the yard and got hit by a car, you know, and she went through all this grief for this cat, and she's like, yeah, I'm not drinking. And this was just amazing. So instead of spiraling, you know, back into the pit of despair, she's made this huge shift to be a participant in her own healing. And it's not like she's saying, I'm having cravings and I'm fighting them. She's just not having them, which I don't know any rehab program that can do that. You know, it's just not what happens. You know, you don't, the desire and the physical connection, it's just always there. And they basically teach you in these programs how to avoid your triggers, right? She knows one of her triggers is anxiety. And it's just not, it's not happening. I've never heard her talk about it in such a way where she just doesn't want to do it. And I remember one night I got I got this series of crazy text messages from her, and I got really freaked out because the last time that happened, it was because she was drunk and she couldn't see the screen. And so I called her immediately. I'm like, "Are you drinking?" And she's like, "No way." I said, "Well, what was that?" She's like, "Oh, I didn't have my glasses on. I just couldn't see." So, oh, what a relief. That was really big. So no drinking, no arthritis pain. Um, she's starting to engage with reality, which is great. She's staying sober. And you know, I I have to say that out of all the things that she's tried, this has been the most successful. I've never seen anything work and so fast. Fast, really fast. So tonight, I have to tell you, she's back in the emergency room, not because she's been drinking, because she thinks she had another stroke. She's okay. I just talked to her. She's waiting to be seen. She's now, back in the back in a room, and they're keeping her. And I think they're probably going to keep her overnight because now she's, after years of, abusing, thank you. I appreciate the prayers. Thank you. She's done some damage to her physical body. And, I think, you have to be aware of that. When you do these things, that there are consequences to them. But pranic healing is a wonderful thing, and not only that, but I'm not a mushy gushy person, but I just feel so much gratitude for the people who have given their hearts and their time to someone who they don't know. You know, they're not being paid for any of this. They're doing it out of the kindness of their, you're doing this out of the kindness of your hearts. And I think that's also, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm very grateful, and thank you so much for coming and for listening. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.